Good. I mean, it's always hard when you come off of a loss and then head into the bye week because it kind of sticks with you for a while, longer than what you expect. Like I was talking to Coach Fleck just about once we got through this past Sunday and really into Rutgers, like you back into that game week, like that's when it like you really snap out of it. And because the last week you look at everything that you did wrong in that game, and maybe you look at back even in the first two games, the things that maybe led to those mistakes in the Cal game that cost us the opportunity to win. You look at all those things and then you attempt to practice those, get better at it throughout the bye week, but it definitely sits with you for a little bit longer than you want. But I love the way the guys have responded this week, and even last week in the bye week, they've really come out and attacked practice, and I've loved it.
Coach Rocco was one of your mentors
Yeah.
in his coaching profession. Now that you know he's going to be in the other coaching box again, what's that like?
It's cool. Obviously, I've talked before about the impact he's made on me as a coach. I was talking with Danny earlier this week. It's kind of cool. You look back in 2017. It was me and Danny and Rob and Kirk, and it was one of those things where it kind of comes full circle. And it's kind of cool to see and kind of be a part of. A guy that has I've spoken on the record before just about the impact he's made and the organization of how the offense is and all that and the foundation of it. And he's taught me a lot throughout the years and just communication with him. And just being a friend. So it's good. He's been an important figure in my life, throughout coaching. But at the end of the day, I really want our guys to go out and play hard, play physical, just like any game.
With both coaching staffs knowing each other so well, is it pretty basic? You know what you're going to see, or
No, I think even when you look back through the years, I mean, Coach Smith has been. I look back like he was here. Then I believe he went to Texas A&M. He was at Duke. He was at Penn State. I think as you look, you kind of look and see how he's evolved over the years. And I don't think it's like you necessarily know what to expect. You go off of what you've seen in tape. The first three games, like they've played the four games, so you really have to go off of that. And I know it's a collaborative effort over there with them, with everything that they do defensively. It's they do a really really nice job. But I think like you have to really trust what you see on the tape, and then go based off of okay, what experiences has he had, over those years, and how do we get prepared for that? They play extremely hard on defense, and they're very very sound. They have a good pressure package on all downs, even down into the green zone. I think it's really really good, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Iowa, when you look at the tape of Iowa, they obviously had some pretty good numbers against Rutgers offensively.
Yeah.
Do you look and say, what did they do, or do you have to
Oh,
stay
yeah.
in the framework of your personnel and your people and not try to do something just because it worked for them?
Yeah, well, you look at whenever you're getting ready for a defense, you really want to look at how a team maybe attacked them, and understand that the defense, if they got beat with something that maybe Iowa did or Miami of Ohio did or Ohio did, as you go through those games, they're good coaches too, and they're going to correct those things. So you kind of have to look at, okay, how did they attack them? What did they see? And then maybe how can we tweak it to be able to exploit something that they do defensively? I think that's the challenge. That's the other thing that we like to do offensively is, okay, what's giving us problems? Maybe it's a movement up front. Maybe it's a pressure. Maybe it's a coverage that we need to be able to exploit that's giving us problems, and we have to be able to recognize that before it happens. I think that's the one thing within coaching, especially when you go throughout the week and you're getting ready, you have to look at, okay, how are they going to attack you? How are they going to set up their defense to be able to exploit what we struggle with? And I think that's what makes a really good coach, and how you can prepare your guys and your each position group to do that. And then again, like Coach always says to us, prepare up into the event and then prepare through it. And once the game is kicked off, we got to keep preparing and adjust to whatever we thought was going to happen, and now it is happening in the game. But it's a great question because it's a fine line, because if they get beat on something the week before, they might not get beat on it the same way the second week in a row.
If the offense is going to continue to get more explosive, what needs to happen?
That's the age-old question. I throw the ball down the field. If I throw the ball down the field, we got to throw it accurately, and we got to catch it. We got to block. I think the key to explosive plays is everything. Running the football effectively, being accurate at quarterback, running the route properly. There's so many things that go into it. And I look at the Cal game where, we had an opportunity to be explosive. Through our metrics, we looked at it where we had 9 explosives throughout that game, through our metrics, how we look at explosive plays. We had game-changing plays as well, which were plays over 25 yards or more. And then we had certain explosive runs and we had explosive passes. We have the ability to be explosive. We have an explosive quarterback. We have explosive playmakers. We just have to execute consistently throughout the course of the game. And at the end of the day, it comes down to me seeing what the defense is doing, us calling the play, and executing it properly once the ball's snapped. Explosive plays happen when the play is executed properly, and it goes back to your question, how do you exploit the defense so you can get the guys in the best position possible to make that play? And I want to be explosive just like everyone wants to be explosive. We have the opportunity to do it. I have to call the play. We have to execute it as players.
Got time for 2 more?
You saw Lemecki have a career day against Cal. What do you recall kind of about his journey there?
You've seen it consistently throughout his years. He's always been kind of the second or third guy. Last year, Daniel was the premier playmaker. Elijah really came onto the scene, and Lemecki was kind of that number 3. If you really study our tape, you would know that Lemecki is extremely valuable to what we do schematically. Things he does in the run game. He might not always be getting the ball because he might be at the point of attack within a block. That's incredibly valuable. Then I looked at it. I said to Coach Simon leading up to that game, I said, Lemecki has an opportunity to make a lot of plays. And it just looked that way throughout practice, like we were going to put him in a position to make those plays. And I think he had 9 or 10 targets, 8 catches. I think it was all career highs with yards and all that. And I think it kind of showed up throughout the week, but it's built to that. It's throughout the summer, throughout training camp, throughout the practices leading up to it. And, I think it's been really impressive to see just the work ethic that he has. And I'm excited to see him play Saturday.
Your running back situation, do you have to adjust your approach a little bit if you don't have some guys available?
Yeah, you always adjust. You're always adjusting and evolving as a coach. I think it's critical for us to be able to do that just with the depth. But I'm really liking where those guys are at. And at the end of the day, we want to put the guys in a position to succeed schematically, and be balanced. Again, balance equals explosiveness eventually. And I want to be able to do that, be balanced from a run-pass perspective, and play fast, and those guys be physical in the protection scheme, catch the football in the backfield, and run the football effectively.
All set? All right, thanks, Coach.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Cal game, the takeaways that you shared with the defense.
Yeah, we have to get the ball, right? So, takeaways is something that we have to obsess about, right? And looking back there's opportunities there where we can take the ball away. Opportunities there we can eliminate explosive plays, right? Opportunities there we can just be better, right? And it all goes back to the atlas that we talk about in our room every time of alignment, technique, language, listen, assignment, situation, right? Every single mistake that's made on the football field goes back to one of those things, right? So when you're able to watch the tape, you're able to see, hey, you're right there to make the play, but your alignment's wrong, right? And that's ultimately my fault, right? And things that we have to correct as coaches, things that we will, and I'm very excited for how that defense responded.
What's the balance like for a coach of when to bring a blitz and when to, leave the drop 8 or that kind of give and take as a coordinator?
Yeah, every team you play is different, right? The quarterback's different, right? How does he handle pressure? How does this quarterback, handle pressure versus the last week's quarterback handle pressure, right? Everything is different, right, in terms of when you're able to do your scouting and do your homework on that. And then, how's our matchups with the D-line versus the O-line, our matchups at DB versus the wideouts and the skill guys, right? So everything's calculated in terms of when, to bring pressure, when to not bring pressure, when to drop 8, when to do things like that.
It seems like last year's game against Rutgers and last week for them against Iowa, it seemed like when Nathan was feeling pressure, his productivity went down. Is that something that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's common with a lot of quarterbacks, right? There's not many quarterbacks, in America that handle pressure really well, but at the same time, you look at this year, with Ethan and pressure, and I mean, I think he's got like an 85% completion percentage versus, blitz. So, there's certain things that some quarterbacks are good at, or if they see it, early or things like that, you got to be strategic with how you hide things and things like that.
Nathan's had a lot of success throwing down the field. What's your key to preventing that and stopping it?
Yeah, he's a solid quarterback. He's got a strong arm and he's got great receivers on the outside. You got Ian Strong, you got Duff out there, big body guys that are long that can go get the 50-50 balls. That's going to be an extreme challenge for us. And then you got, DT in the slot who's, fantastic as well, has burst, good at getting in and out of his breaks. You got a tight end that can catch the ball. You got an O-line that's, very experienced. And then you got the signal caller that's been in the system and knows exactly, what to do and where to go with the ball. I think Coach Rocket does an excellent job in preparing him, and it'll be a great challenge for us.
Speaking of Shiraka, you've been on staff with him at Western Michigan, at Minnesota. You know how he operates, how he wants the game plan. You've been with him. What are the challenges of trying not to get too deep in your own head to try and out-chess him?
Yeah, Coach Rock is an excellent football coach, and he knows a lot about us. We know a lot about him. At the end of the day, it's what is their offense doing now. It's not about what we did in 2017 or 2018 or things like that. It's about what they're doing now, the personnel they have now. Our defense is different now than it was then. Everybody kind of tweaks things, but he's an excellent football coach that, gets his offense in the right looks and super smart. He prepares. I remember always walking in the building and he'd always be, the first one there, preparing. So, we're going to have our hands full.
Like talked about earlier this week, that maybe some guys on defense were big play hunting too much during the non-conference. How do you try to get them to look for big plays but also do their job first?
Yeah, the number one thing is do your job, right? And when you do your job, that's when you make plays. When you attempt to do other people's job, that's when you don't make plays, right? We don't need people to be Superman out there, right? All we need is you to do your job. As coaches, we do our job, and together, then we can get it done, right? And I think that was the beauty you saw last year at certain positions where you just do your job and you put yourself in the right position to make the play. If the ball is there, the ball is there. Go make the play. If it's not, then you did your job probably, and that's why the ball's not there. If you do your job, then sometimes the ball may not go there, right? You can't get frustrated in those situations. Just keep doing it, and eventually those plays will come for you.
There may be no coach on staff closer to Coy Parrish than you are. You recruited him. You're his position coach. You're his defensive coordinator. How have you seen him respond during the bye week heading up to this Rutgers game?
Absolutely love his response. I mean, he is practicing his tail off. Today, I mean, he's flying around. He's, picking off balls. He's coy. And, I think when you're a young guy like that and you make mistakes for the first time, right, it's like, the outside, it's, oh, the world's falling. It's not. I mean, he's made a couple mistakes. He's going to respond from it. I have all the faith in the world in him. Love him to death. And my job is to get him better and make him a better football player and a better person ultimately at the end of the day. And he is coming to work with that mentality every single day to just be better. And I love his response. I'm very excited to see what he does on Saturday.
When you look at that Cal game, you saw the video of the punch down the football that wasn't overturned or looked at. There was a pass tipped at the line where Coy could have had a pick six, but you've had one defensive takeaway in the last 5 FBS games. Now it spans before you, but how do you turn that faucet back on to start Big Ten play?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to continue to emphasize it, and you have to obsess about it, right? We've been talking to the defense this week about this word obsession, right? And you got to obsess about the football. Like, I want our guys walking to class thinking about the ball, right? I want them in the hallway thinking about the ball. And in our meeting rooms, we have balls there. They're punching the ball out, right? You got to obsess about the football, right? Especially these two programs right now. The ball is the program, right? Who obsesses about it more, right? It will show, right? So that obsession has to be key on Saturday, and I'm really excited how our guys are going to respond.
Time for 1 or 2 more? No? Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.